I've tried a lot of webcams, but this one promises to be the best. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I just bought this. It's by ELGATO, the cat, FaceCam Pro, and this is supposed to be the best webcam ever made. Let's unbox it and try it out. So here's the FaceCam Pro. Man, this thing was actually pretty hard to get. I waited a long time because they were out of stock for the longest time on this, but finally was able to replenish it. So I don't know if that means low production or just really high demand for this, but I will say I have kind of been one of those people that doesn't want to get into a lot of visual tech. I don't want to get a DSLR and have to figure out how to set it up and what clean HDMI is and all these, different things and focus rings and all of that. I just want to plug stuff in and have it work, i.e. I think that's one of the reasons people like Apple or anything that is plug and play. And the Elgato FaceCam Pro here is supposed to be almost DSLR quality, but in a webcam form factor and with webcam functionality for us idiots, so we can plug it in, just do the same things we do with all our webcams, but give us a really high quality picture and image. Now, I will say that I don't really care about the price even. I wish I could get some of those really awesome streaming images that, the big money YouTubers do so that it looks just great, and I wouldn't even care. I just don't want to have to fuss with some big setup and thousands of dollars of equipment. But if this thing were $500 and was legit DSLR quality in a webcam format, I would be all for it. But at $300, I think it actually could be a steal. You can see how it is formed here. It's actually fairly big. It kind of reminds me of like a Pico projector in some ways. We have some heat vents right there. You can see how wide this is. 4K, I think it will use whatever it needs. You can see it actually says 2160p60, so 2160 pixels, which I think is 4K, 60 frames per second, 21 millimeters. So this thing is kind of the business. You've got your 1/4-inch screw hole right there, and on the back there, USB-C connector or Thunderbolt kind of cutouts around the back here too, so it should vent. No light, no cover. You can order some covers for these flip-down covers from people who 3D print them on Etsy. In here we have the quick start guide, so I will try to take a look at that. Looks like we have a reset button down here, right there as well, according to this. And I'm really just kind of curious from, like I said, a moron's perspective, plug and play, how does it work? We get a fairly long cable here, USB-C to USB-C, so it should be compatible with, your MacBooks. And then we also get a little mount here, so this is your top mount. It would screw in here, and then you can tighten that down just like this, so we can put this on like this, and then this little lip will sit on the front or the front of the monitor, and this will sit on the top, and then it'll be braced on the back. This seems fairly robust. This is all rubber right here, this whole inner panel, and then underneath here it's all rubber, so you shouldn't have any marring. It should actually be a little insulative from vibration, but then you can tilt this to where you need it. I actually use a Plexicam mount, so it's going to be right in the middle of my screen hopefully, and just the size of it I don't think is going to be a problem because the Plexicam has a long little ledge here, but the weight of it is probably my biggest concern because it's not super heavy, but compared to a lot of those little plastic webcams that you have, this definitely is heavier than that. So all I'm going to do now is plug and play this guy, and maybe we'll play around with the settings if it looks really bad, but I'm really kind of curious how it stacks up to my fairly decent, $80 webcam that has worked pretty well, but certainly leaves me wanting in some ways. So let's give it a try. All right, guys, back in my office here, and I have my lights, smart lights, set to two different settings. One is called the meeting setting, where it's just illuminating everything very bright, including the room behind me. And the other one I have is called a studio setting, which illuminates me, but darkens up the light in the back a lot. So I kind of want to test both of these right out of the box here and see what happens. Now, keep in mind, do not judge the audio quality here because I'm using my HyperX Quadcast microphone to record the audio on both, so that should be the same. But what I do want to test here is my Nexigo webcam with a built-in ring light. It's got a ring light on there, but one of the problems here is that just like when I was pointing at it, it kind of like grays me out, and then it warms me up here, and I'm not trying to do anything, but it doesn't do a great job with my hands sometimes. It kind of keeps everything in focus. The stuff in the back there, my bookshelf is just as much in focus as me, so it has this really long focal length, I think. And it works fine, and I've liked it, and it's done great as a webcam, and it's no frills. It's pretty affordable, but man, I have just been wanting with a webcam. So here is what it looks like in my meeting setting with everything all bright. But let me go to my studio setting here, and like I said, darkens everything down and kind of creates me. But like I said, right now I look a little red to me, but if I move my hand around, again, gray, green, man, it just doesn't hold the colors real well. And this camera doesn't really allow me to control the focus. I mean, obviously it's an autofocus, but you know, I have downloaded tools and they haven't worked real well to just hold the focus on me and kind of lock in the colors. You know, I've got this webcam settings app and I don't know, it always seems to struggle a little bit, especially when I've got some external light coming in through the day here. But this is what you can expect, not only from resolution, because I don't think this can get higher than 1080p. I think this is a 1080p camera only. And as far as I can tell, even in the settings that I played around with, it doesn't get any higher than 50 frames per second. So just limited all around, but you know, I think you'd agree, probably pretty good for a webcam, or at least an affordable standard webcam. So I'm going to get this swapped out, and then we will try the new ELGATO FaceCam Pro. All right, went ahead and plugged in the ELGATO here, and there's a couple things that I can tell you right off the bat. First of all, because the cord comes straight out the back, and because it's so large, and because I'm using the PlexCam webcam holder that holds the camera right in front of the monitor, the cord is actually hitting my monitor, so I might have to find like an elbow bend or something like that. The other thing that I will say here is that when I plugged it in, I saw additional resolution settings. So this thing will record in 2160 or 4K, and obviously what you can see here is it has a much larger field of view. On my Nexago, I wasn't kind of cropping that in or anything. That is just all you could see. And so obviously you can see a lot of stuff here. It's not fisheye, it's just really large. And that's how I think this allows you to, you know, crop in and not lose resolution and still have, you know, really good picture quality. I would say that I look pretty warm. I mean, I have kind of these warm white, pretty yellow lights, kind of sunlight yellow, and I might have to adjust these because it's actually making me look very warm. And I will also say, as I move around here, you know, I will be happy to admit it's actually focusing on my hands, which is pretty cool. So if I'm showing you something, say, coming up, like this Stream Deck here, it actually seems to want to focus in on stuff like that. Ooh, look at that, man. That is cool. Dude, this is giving me a serious bokeh effect. The other thing I really like about it is, let's say I were sitting really close, you know, I mean, a lot of us are going to have different distances to the web camera. If you're using it on the top of your monitor, it could be a little further away, but because I have it floating in front of my monitor, I could be sitting very close to it. And it seems to focus on me really well, which is nice. So I like that. I like being able to show things, especially if I'm in a meeting, you know, things like, you know, this book. If you want to pick this up on Amazon, it is available for you. It's called Rated M for Manure, and it's just a bunch of quotes by an idiot. So, oh, right there, like you said. My favorite dog is a poodoodle. Half poodle, half poodle. Yes. Oh, those dogs. Oh, designer dogs are all the rage. So right now it looks pretty good. And I would say, even though I've done things like that, I'm not getting like this grayed out effect. I'm not getting like this exposure change that I was in the other one. And you can be the judge of how smooth you think the video is or how clear it is. Obviously, it's in the highest resolution. If I want to bring that in, I would have to change some of the settings. But I want to go ahead and hit my studio light setting here and see how that goes. Did I get it? Yeah, there we go. All right, so it's gone ahead to the blue or the purple. Color representation is pretty good, I think, but I almost say it's too warm. So I'm not sure if I'm going to change that in the camera or I'm going to change that with the lights. I will tell you, I mean, it might be hard to see here, but I have adjusted these lights to be very yellow, kind of sunshine yellow. Not sure if you can see that. And that's because of the way the old camera was. Everything just seemed a little washed out. So to give myself a look of being warm, I really had to crank up these yellow lights. I mean, it feels a little weird because it feels like I'm sitting right in front of yellow lights, which makes me look now like I'm sitting in front of a sunset. So while this may look a little weird on this camera, I think that this is a better color representation of what I have here than the old camera. So to me, the nice thing is I probably get to change these back to a little bit more of a daylight white, you know, just a little bit of warmth to the light. And man, I'd rather this be accurate and I change these things as opposed to having to change these things to make the image look accurate. So in the studio setting here, I think that looks pretty good. You know, on my end here, as I'm just kind of watching the little preview image, everything's a little jittery. We'll see if that's how it records it. If it does, I'm not going to be real happy with that, and I'm probably going to have to back off the frame rate to 30 or something like that, which will be fine for streaming. But I just really wanted to see what I could record here while trying it out. So Obviously, I can crop this in, change my lights now, and we'll probably do a little bit of that and just test and see how that looks here before I make any final conclusions and decide if this is going to be my webcam of the future or not. So let me try making some tweaks. Alright guys, so I have played around with the settings just a little bit. The only setting I have changed on the webcam itself is the zoom. So obviously I have zoomed in here, and I will probably adjust where the webcam is because I kind of want it looking down on me just a little bit more, you know, because it's kind of centering my head a little bit, and I would like my head up here looking into the webcam. Now, because I cropped it, you know, I haven't changed anything else. Should be recording in its 4K, 50 frames per second, and all that. The other thing I did is I actually went into my app here and I changed my light settings to be much more natural. They're actually much more pleasant to me because it doesn't feel like unnatural lighting. Even in meeting mode here where I have my face illuminated and the room illuminated, this is like what I would just work in. But before, it felt very yellow. You know, I know a lot of people like warm white lights and cabins and in kitchens, things like that. You have warm white, but it was more than warm white. It was yellow. So this is just more of a bright, kind of like a slightly yellow, just off daylight white color, and it feels much more natural. And hopefully you're looking at this picture saying, hey, the color looks pretty good too. The color looks pretty good, because I'm hoping that. Now I'm just going to hit the studio setting here and go back to that, and I was able to adjust those. So my front lights here are exactly the same, so they don't go yellow anymore. The back lights go back to the blue and purple, just to dim that out, just to darken it out, you know, so that people aren't distracted by what's going on back there. The people behind the curtains, you know, the people pulling my strings and making me move like a super marionette. So that is something that I would use when I'm filming or live streaming or podcasting with you guys. And so I like that too, because again, the face color here looks pretty normal, you know, makes me look like a real human being. Again, the centering, not a big issue. I think I'm going to adjust that, but man, I tell you what, without going into all sorts of settings, I know people will move around sliders on exposure, f-stops, and all that stuff, and I don't get it. I'm just a caveman. But what I do know is my client is entitled to no less than $7 million in punitive damages. Unfrozen caveman lawyer! So I just love it because it's plug and play, and man, does this look so much better than my Nexigo webcam. Yes, this thing, $300. It's expensive. No doubt. I'm not saying it's not. But if you are looking for a webcam that will give you professional level quality, you know, without going to a DSLR and trying to figure out what all these HDMI formats are and having some big 5-pound rig sitting above your computer and having $2,000 invested in that and all this other equipment and switches and making sure this is powered up and that has memory and all these other things, well, this is what you want, because by far the best webcam I have ever tested. Man, I would love to see continued improvements. There's probably room for this to continue to improve, but in terms of giving me what I want out of the box, just plugging in cables, this is the best I have ever seen. I am super impressed with it. So if you want to pick up the ELGATO FaceCam Pro, I'm not sure if you can get it because I put my name in the wait list, and when I got the email like, hey, stock is resupplied, go order now, I did it. So I don't know if you're going to be able to find it, but hopefully they are making a slew of these things and they're easy to get now. But I definitely think if you take your webcam, online meetings, coursework, whatever, online courses, teaching, conferencing, whatever, if that's serious business for you, then you'll want to pick up this. I'll put a link to it in the description below. Peter Von Panda, out.
We can discover more and explore so much deeper.